I'm Vice President of the Marketing Strategy. So thank you for coming to this event, meeting with Shane, Barnes, and let me introduce our company first. Yeah. Open source is a community for contributor and promoter and user for the open source technology and for advocate development and concept use of the open source technology. So what we have done is last week on June we have an open source conference and we planned a PowerPoint on November. So this subject detail we are proposal and plan. You can go to the website for the registration. Elasticsearch is a popular open source distributed full text enterprise search engine based on Google with a RESTful web UI and skill-free JSON document. So we can invite the speaker, Shane Barnes.
Hello everybody, pleasure to be here. I'm going to give a similar talk to what I gave yesterday. It's been a long trip. Yesterday at the RISE conference, which talks a bit about the history of Elasticsearch, and myself, how I got into open source, how I ended up building Elasticsearch, how we ended up funding a company around it that is now called Elastic. Quick question though, how many people here know about Elasticsearch? That's awesome. How many people here use Elasticsearch? Oh, that's great. So, I'd love to hear you guys talk about it as well. So maybe we'll have a chance to chat about it a bit before. After my talk. So I'll try to do it briefly because we have until 8 o'clock. So let's start. So it all started here. I'm young and foolish, and my wife decides to become a chef. So we go from Israel to London, so she can go and study in the Cordon Bleu. And I don't have a job. My wife is studying and what have you, and I try to make myself attractive to be employed, different companies, so I can be employed. So I go and start to learn different type of technologies. But part of learning, in order to learn it well, you want to build something, right? It's like you want to have a purpose to everything that you learn. And I decided to write a cooking app for my wife. So all the knowledge that she gathers when she studies, things about recipes and ingredients and the history of them and the locations that they come from, all of those would be like at the tip of her fingers. And when I started to think about how it would look like, I wanted to make it simple. And part of making it simple is to just have a single search box, right? The same way that you browse the web. Then she'll type something like, I don't know, whatever, Cordon Bleu 2005 with bread or something, and it will just find the recipe. So I started to learn about how do you build search into an application. And I got into Apache Lucene. And that was years ago, like 15, 13 years ago or so. How many people here are familiar with Apache Lucene? Awesome, okay. So Apache Lucene is a wonderful search library that is being used by Elasticsearch as well, by the way. So if you're using Elasticsearch, you're also using Apache Lucene. And I started to use it. And part of what it enables you is just to have something called an inverted index, right? The ability to search across blurbs of text, if you will. I started to build it into the application, and it was not simple. It was quite difficult, actually. And I was using another library at the time called Hibernate. How many people here are familiar with Hibernate, coming from the Java world? Old school, new school, still being used. So this is like an ORM library, Object to Relational Model Library. It maps your domain model into a relational database. If you're using Ruby on Rails, that's Active Record. If you're using other libraries or other frameworks, then it's the same thing. So I took that, I used also Hibernate, and I said, hey, I can take my domain model and easily map it to a relational database. Why can't I do the same with a search engine? Why can't I take the object model and map it into Apache Lucene? So I ended up building this library that helped you do that. I managed to find a job in the meantime and what have you, and I took that code, the library that I wrote, and open sourced it, and called it Compass. That was my first ever open source project. And that was effectively something that did exactly what the Hibernate did to relational database. Compass did from your object model to Apache Lucene. And it got pretty popular. A lot of users have been using it. It's a library. You just embed it in your Java app and start to use it. But one of the interesting things that happened when people started to use it is that it freed their mind about what they can do with search. So when people looked at Apache Lucene before, they said, okay, I have a PDF document and I have a Word document, and I want to make it searchable so someone can search it. But suddenly, when you can easily map your domain model in any type of application that you write, suddenly search becomes like almost at your fingertips, right? You just add that library, automatically index the data, and automatically make it searchable. And you don't have to like go and do word clause in SQL and decide which field you want to search on and stuff like that. You just search on something and you get back stuff, your business model. Then I started to see that library being used in financial application, taking trades and confirmations and putting them into Apache Lucene and exposing that to the fingertips of traders. I started to see it being used in so many places where you didn't see search being used before, as a go-to or first end user experience. And as time passed and the library became more and more popular, I started to, I went back to Israel after London. My wife finished studies, and I went back to Israel, started to work in a company that did distributed in-memory data queries. So in-memory, low latency, it's a company called Gigaspaces, and while maintaining this open source library all the time. And what I saw happening is that, first of all, I got exposed to building very high intensive, high throughput, low latency type applications through Gigaspaces. I got exposed to building distributed systems in Gigaspaces. And what I got exposed through Compass was the growth of data that was happening. And Compass, that library, was you just embedded in your app. But what happens if you have more data than you can hold in a single machine? That starts to become challenging. And Compass didn't have an answer for that, right? It was like a single library that stores the index on the local machine. It wasn't distributed, it wasn't anything. So as someone that has a lot of emotional connection to an open source project that they created, I started to try to hack Compass to make it distributed. And by hacking Compass, it was also hacking Apache Lucene. I have a whole talk about it in the first or second Berlin buzzword, if you want to see about all the transitions that I went through, technological ones. But I can try to create a distributed Lucene directory and stuff like that, just trying to make it work within the toolset that I have. And it was complete failures, like it didn't work. So I knew that I see this project becoming successful. I see users using it in crazy, use cases all the time. I see data volumes growing, and now I see another thing that happened, which is the cloud, right? Amazon started to happen. You started to see, people had suddenly they had 50 servers in their fingertip, right? They executed a command and suddenly they have 50 servers. I remember the influence that it had on gigaspaces, right? Suddenly, if you wanted to deploy gigaspaces, it was actually very difficult on Amazon. The whole product was built around, you have 50 servers, you know who they are, IP address this, everything static list, what have you, right? It could run on 50 servers, but it was not as dynamic as the cloud requires you to be. So all of those things are bubbling in my head, and I said, okay, there's no way, something new needs to happen. And I knew that I can't take Compass and stretch it to become a distributed system. Search is a wonderful technology, it applies to so many different use cases. How can you build a distributed search engine as a result of it? You need one. And there wasn't one out there, right? I mean, the only open source search server that was built at the time was Apache Solr, and that was built with the old school way of looking at search. Single server, not distributed. I remember going through a lot of technical implementations in gigaspaces to make it highly distributed that can run on hundreds of machines. And there was a lot of technical history in Apache Solr. Not to their fault, right? It's the same challenge that I had with Compass, and I realized there's no way that I can make Compass properly distributed. So to the same level, I looked at Apache Solr and I said, there's I can't even go in and contribute to make it distributed because there's a lot of history, technical baggage that is associated with it. So I knew that I wanted to build something new. But I also knew the effort that goes into building an open source project, right? Most of my weekends and evenings I'm spending talking to people on IRC and mailing lists around Compass and what have you, and I go do I have the do I have the breadth enough in me to go and start a new open source project. So it took me about 6 or 7 months to muster the courage of actually going and writing the first line of code of Elasticsearch, but I ended up doing that. And I hacked on it for a long time, not that long of a time, I don't know, 5, 6 months or something like that. And then after 6 months, I ended up open sourcing it. So this was the first logo of Elasticsearch. I created that logo, so obviously it's pretty crap. I have no idea how to work with Photoshop. Don't ask me to know even how it works. And what it was a distributed search engine, right? It's you start it up, it goes, runs, you can deploy it across many machines, very simple to use. I spent a lot of time learning about how people develop application now and into the future. So I didn't look back into something like Java and Hibernate. I tried to look forward into things like Ruby on Rails, and Django, the new age of web frameworks. The focus around simplicity, the focus around JSON as a document, as a representation of your data, the focus around RESTful APIs, starting very quickly. I built an Elasticsearch in Java, and it works and used the Apache machine, but I almost wanted to make people feel like it's not Java, right? Because Java had this old, it's heavy, it takes ages to start up, and crazy stack traces when you have a problem, and how you process it. My effort was to hide the Java-ness from users. And here's a personal story. So one of the most scary moments when you start a new open source project is when you open the IRC channel, right? You open the IRC channel and you're alone. There's nobody there, right? It's only yourself. You can chat, but you'll have to answer yourself because there's nobody else to talk to. And you're waiting for someone to join the IRC channel, right? And then you go and you create a mailing list and nobody posts anything and blah, 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 blah. And you're just getting started. So I remember like it was like a half a day later or something like that. There's this dude that goes on IRC called Clint or Clinton. And he goes, hey man, like, I started to use your software, it was 0.4, right? I mean, just download, you can still download Elasticsearch 0.4. It was nice, but not as nice as it is today. And he goes, yeah, I want to use the software. And I go like, yeah, I'm my first user. And back then, like, Ruby was all the rage, right? So I said, like, I have to get like a Ruby user that does like, I don't know, social media or, you know, social startup or whatever, right? Like something sexy. And he goes and says, yes, I'm using Perl and I'm building a site for, how do you say it in English? Obituaries. So when people die, you give notices on that site so other people will know that someone died. And I'm like, what? Like, I get someone that uses Perl and tries to build a search across obituaries. What's up with that? Like, this should be the first user that I software will have. But you know, he ended up being pivotal to the success of Elasticsearch. This guy has been there helping make Elasticsearch simple. He has the right frame of mind, doesn't know Java, but he just went in and was my sounding board for the first few years around, hey man, I want to do this, what do you think? Is it simple enough? Here's the API, how it looks like, do you think it makes sense? Is it something that you can explain somewhere else? And just as a side note, if you go today to GitHub, you'll see Clint in our case is the team lead for Elasticsearch. So a Perl developer is the team lead for Elasticsearch, which is pretty crazy, and he works with our company. So I'm extremely proud of it. So Elasticsearch grows and grows and grows and becomes successful, and it's pretty nuts. Based on my experience with Compass, I knew that there was something there, and people would be able to use it for things that they never thought that they would be able to use it. But I didn't imagine that it would be so quick. Like how quickly people will realize what they can do with Elasticsearch. And that blew me off. So within like 2 months, I think, I quit my job at Gigaspace, moved back to my hometown, and started to do it full time. Just doing open source full time. And I spent, every waking hour and non-waking hour on Elasticsearch. And the community grew, the ecosystem around it grew. People started to develop language client for it, right? Carl from Plug decided to write a wonderful Ruby client to Elasticsearch. And there were like many, many different people that build applications on top of Elasticsearch. There was a fellow called Jordan Cecil that always said, there's so many logs out there, what do we do with those logs? So he ended up creating Logstash that helps, take logs from different sources, parse them, enhance them, take an IP and add a geolocation to it, things like that. And one of the outputs that it had was Elasticsearch. It supported others. It supported MongoDB, it supported Cassandra, it supported, Logstash is quite a feature-rich project. But what ended up happening is that once I heard about it, I'm joining the Logstash IRC channel and I'm going to Jordan, hey man, like what do I need to do to make it simple for you, to make it successful? And then there's this wonderful collaboration that goes on between myself and Jordan around making Elasticsearch better when it comes to logs, which is slightly different than indexing, long Shakespeare works or something like that, but it's small logs with numbers and structured data and some unstructured data. So we work together to hack Lucene and Elasticsearch to make it faster and better in the context of logging, because it's just another piece of data that you want to, make sense of it. And suddenly, Elasticsearch starts to become being used as this open source logging story. But there is only like one problem with that. Jordan really sucks when it comes to building UI. And the first Logstash UI was pretty terrible. And then there's this guy that wakes up on the other side of the wall, but this is where compared to me, compared to Jordan, and says, okay, like this UI doesn't cut it. I'm going to write a new UI on top of Elasticsearch so people can explore their data more simply. And this guy is called Rashid Khan, and he created Kibana. And he lives in Phoenix. And Rashid starts to work on Kibana to build a simplified UI on top of this Elasticsearch project. So, Logstash streaming data, and Kibana visualizes almost any data that you have in Elasticsearch, right? It doesn't have to come from Logstash, it can come from other sources. It did have a focus around logging in the context of the first few versions of Kibana. But then, what happens when we're sitting there is that we're effectively, the three of us and all the community around us have created an open source logging solution without even realizing it. And that's the wonderful things of innovation that happens. It's like, serendipity, right? It's like when you ask me when I started to create Elasticsearch, if we're going to create, me, Jordan, and Rashid are going to create an open source logging solution, I would probably have said, I have no idea. I can't even think to that level. Just let me write a distributed search engine first, which is already challenging. But then that happened, right? And then as the project succeeds, the nice thing about the logging solution is that it's very easy to get started with it, right? Search is sometimes like a more difficult and challenging integration. What is relevant? How do you find relevant results? You can kind of drop in Elasticsearch, push some data into it, and display the top 10 results. But sometimes you want to start to get into more complicated questions around relevancy. Logging, on the other hand, is very easy to get started, right? Just dump it into one machine and start to stream logs into it and put Kibana in front of it, and you can start to visualize it. So suddenly the spike of adoption of Elasticsearch has gone through the roof, right? Suddenly there's something super simple to get started with, and once people started to use it for logging, they say, oh, okay, maybe we can use it for our website search, maybe we can use it for other reasons. And the more the time passes, it starts to be used for mission critical applications, right? It's like, if Elasticsearch is down, our website is down. If Elasticsearch is down, it's kind of up, but you lose most of the functionality when it comes to trying to find data in your website. So I'm starting to get private chat messages on IRC saying, hey man, our website is down, can you help us, And I'm like, okay, I'll help you, no problem. Then it starts to become challenging. It's 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, I go okay, I'm done with this feature, trying to code this feature for Elasticsearch. Then it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm ready to go to bed, I'm done, and then I get this private chat. Hey man, our website is down. Can you help us? And I go, okay, I'll help you. I did plan to go to bed. And suddenly I find myself awake until 6 o'clock in the morning. Or 7 o'clock in the morning, or sometimes a full day, and I'm just helping people out. And my wife started to be really concerned around the fact that I don't sleep that much anymore. So, all the popularity and everything around it just made sense for me to try to think about, okay, maybe it's time to start a company around these products. It's successful. It has the basic characteristics of starting an open source, starting a company around an open source. I'm just checking how much I have. Starting an open source project. It's runtime, it's distributed, right? It handles data. If you look back at my previous open source project, it's Compass, right? So it's a library. So when an application is down, nobody goes and says, Compass is down, who do I call, right? They go and say, JBoss is down, or WebLogic is down, who do I call? But on the other hand, when you have Elasticsearch, which handles data, extends the mission, the critical path of the application, running on multiple machines, if there's a problem, you know that you need help in the context of Elasticsearch. So I decided to maybe form a company around it. And I think one of the biggest reasons, I started to study about it and what have you, I knew that one of the biggest reasons why companies succeed is who do you start a company with, right? Who's the foundation of the company? And I was lucky enough to know people like Uri and Steven and Simon, that we ended up like joining forces together and starting the company. Very, very strong people, especially strong people that come both from open source background, but also have the technical foundation to jumpstart the project, the product forward. So I moved to Amsterdam and started the company there, because that's where most people were. Simon was in Germany, and Uri and Steven were in Amsterdam, and Martijn and Simon are Lucid committers. Uri is a solar trainer, but don't tell anybody at the time. And we started the company together. And immediately, how do you start a company together? You say, what do you do? Oh, yeah, I'm gonna ask all my friends from IRC back in the day and today, like, if they want to join this company. Maybe this Carl dude that I've been chatting to him for the past 2 years around how to build a good Ruby product, maybe he wants to join us. Maybe Clint would want to join us. Maybe Rashid or Jordan would want to join us. I mean, it's just like, it's very evident. It's like it was one of the challenges that young companies have is, okay, who's the next one are we going to hire? Where do we hire them from? Who, are they good or not? Are we going to get together? Like on a personal level, right? Are we going to get together and work together wonderfully? I had 2 years of experience with many different people that build wonderful things around our community, around our products. So it was quite easy actually to build the company. We had to slow down at one point just to not hire too fast when it comes to building our company. And it goes back also to how this whole evolution around the ecosystem of Elasticsearch happened. That we ended up also being quite visionary. I don't know if visionaries, but how do you say it? Ambitious in the concept of what we're trying to solve. Because almost immediately we didn't only have Elasticsearch. We had Elasticsearch, language clients for most of the popular language programming languages, most of the popular ones, and Perl. We had we always make fun of Clint that is too. We had Kibana, right? And it's like those are completely different. Elasticsearch, distributed search engine, written in Java, built based on Apache Lucene. We have Apache Lucene committers in Simon and Martijn, and we'll slowly have more and more. You go to Logstash and it's all around Ruby and crazy integrations with many different outputs and filters and inputs and what have you. You go to Kibana and suddenly like AngularJS and JavaScript and D3 to visualize data and what have you. So it's like a very rich ecosystem of technologies and different type of people that we have in terms of their technological capabilities that we have around our company. But we grow and grow. There's a big need to what we provide as a company. We provide production support. Who do you call when you have a problem? And we're being very, very successful. Making sure that we focus on the product. That's also very important, right? Making sure that we focus on providing production support for our products, and we want to push our products forward. And making sure that we have the time for our people to focus on building products. And then as we grow and grow and grow, which is quite mind-blowing, about 5 years after that we have, this is just, I think this is only for Elasticsearch if I remember correctly. So this is like quite impressive in what we have. Many different releases that we have, some of them due to critical bugs, but we have less of them now, especially in the beginning. But many contributors and commits across the globe, like you just stop counting, especially also in the context of our company. We have employees across the globe, right? Completely distributed company. And when someone says I'm working remote, I go like, that implies that there's somewhere that is not remote. We don't have a place that is not remote in our company. And we as a company started to grow. Then one of the things that we did as a company is that we started to also build commercial plugins to Elasticsearch. So you can go so far as a company in the context of just providing support. So we take the needs of enterprises and commercialize them. So for example, we see a lot of banks caring about security. So we created this Shield product that is an extension to Elasticsearch and Kibana that builds around the more complicated aspects of security, role-based access control, integration with LDAP, encryption and message signing between nodes in the cluster, things along those lines. So we have 250 employees. As you see, many different products that we have today. Community has been amazing. I think that's one of the reasons why you get adoption, and we're investing a lot of time in it. I've been to Tokyo and Seoul in this street. We've been all over the place. And you go to meetups like these ones, and you just meet a lot of users of our software. And we didn't even, we were not there, right? Just downloaded the software and became successful with it. Started to innovate on top of it. And it's just wonderful. It's a wonderful experience. We have, just mind-blowing, already more than $30 million downloads of our software in these 5 years. It's just like, I think it's one of the most successful open source projects that are around today. I would maybe Docker is slightly more successful, but we solve different problems, so we're friends. And here's some use cases of Elasticsearch, and I'll just run through them. I won't go into technical details. The thing that I try to explain here is how you can open your mind around all the different problems that Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana, now we have Beats, we have hosted Elasticsearch in the cloud, on Amazon, we have multiple solutions for you. So here's one of them. Whenever you go on Wikipedia today and search, that's Elasticsearch powering it behind the scenes. We work very closely with the Wikimedia Foundation in order to make it happen. It's the culmination of, I think we worked with them for a year and a half to make this transition. It was not simple, if you can imagine. And that's your typical search use case, right? It's all about relevancy, which results to return, multilingual support. Obviously, Wikipedia is provided in many different languages. How do you solve that? A lot of different work that we have here. Oh, and by the way, and they started with search, but now they're also using it for logging. How do you monitor all your servers that you deploy for Wikipedia? We'll use Elasticsearch Logstash and Kibana to monitor all of that, so that's awesome. Mozilla is one of the early users of Elasticsearch as well, after Clint, but not that far off. And they're using Elasticsearch for multiple various projects. One of them is around security, over 300 million events per day, providing network security and intrusion detection around their infrastructure. GitHub, how many people here are using GitHub? Again, working very closely with GitHub as a customer, they're a customer of ours, to power all the search that they have in their site. So every time you search for an issue or you search for code and what have you, and you see also those statistics on the left-hand side. If you search for something and you see 50 projects in C, 20 projects in C++, and so on. That's all powered by Elasticsearch. And obviously, as they started using it just for search, but now they have features like audit logging and different things that like audit, like you can see any change that are happening or what have you, and all of that also goes into Elasticsearch. So again, you see how the usage of our products expands within just beyond the initial problem that it was deployed to solve. Facebook, we don't power the main Facebook search. That's actually quite complicated. They had to build a unique solution just for that around the graph search problem. I think it's called Unicorn, but I'm not sure. But we power everything else. So that's quite exciting. NASA, that's one of my favorite ones. So the Mars Curiosity rover up in Mars, and that sends tons of analytics and statistics or samples around everything that it goes and bubbles through and says, okay, here's the humidity when in this amount of time, in this time, or Earth to soil measures and stuff like that. All of that streams back to Earth. And you should go online and check this video. They had a talk about it in our conference, and it's pretty awesome. It's actually very interesting how that data ends up getting back to Earth. Like there's all deployment of satellites and what have you. Then once it gets to Earth, it makes all its way blah 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 into Elasticsearch. And they built both a custom visualization, and they're using Kibana to visualize all of that data and put it in front of scientists to understand, all the samples and all the data that is being streamed from Mars. Okay, did you think about that when you build this search engine? Not initially. You know that there's something there, but not initially. The Guardian, that's again a wonderful story, where if you think about it, all the writers within The Guardian, they did not know how well their stories are doing when you write a story. The Guardian is one of the biggest UK newspaper sites, and obviously it has a very strong online presence. Sorry? So they didn't know what was going on, and at one point this guy in The Guardian goes and says, I'm hearing all of those writers, and they say, how many times someone tweeted my article? 50 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. That means it's popular, and it's driving people to view this article. And he said, how can you say that? Like, there's no data around it. And actually, we need real-time data around it, and historical sampling of data around it. So it's like within a few days, they've deployed Elasticsearch in order to provide analytics for how people use the Guardian website. If you think about it, it's a relatively simple logging usage, right? Like tap into the web server logs and strip it into Elasticsearch and start to understand what's going on. And very quickly they found out that Twitter is great, but the graph of Twitter looks like this, right? It's like within 2 hours it dies down. On the other hand, when you look at Facebook, and they had almost zero investment in Facebook, the graph looked like this. So, of course, initially in Twitter it jumps up, but Facebook gives you consistent page views through a week. So maybe they need to invest more in Facebook compared to just investing in Twitter. It's not like not investing in Twitter, but maybe it makes sense to invest a bit more in Facebook. So they started this whole project of building a program around trying to show and build all of this application on top of, it's called Ofun. There's a few talks. I gave one of the talks with one of the lead engineers there as well. They're it's considered to be one of the more revolutionary projects that we developed within the newsroom today. This is a sign of being disgusting, crazy news people, whatever, website, conferences. The nice thing that they did about it is that once they had that information, it was like people could navigate and explore it in real time and change and see heat maps of where the traffic is coming 5 hours ago and press play and see how it moves and transitions based on time and what have you. All of that powered by Elasticsearch. They gave it to the writers. So up until that point, only the editors could see it. And they opened up this program to all of the writers. Now, the idea was that only the editors should know about how it works and how it goes. They open up it all the way down to the writers themselves so they can see how people engage with their content. That has made a huge difference in their newsroom effectively. So you see how once you put the data at the fingertips of people, actually, you might change the whole mindset of people, right, or users. And Elasticsearch is at the heart of this. Yale University, I'll just jump to some of these. I want to leave time for questions. Yeah, cool. Yale, never imagined that, using Elasticsearch as part of the cancer research program. Dell, thousands, we work with them for multiple things, mainly a logging use case, I would say. 37,000 queries that were vetted, transactions. Microsoft uses Elasticsearch quite a bit. If you're using Azure Search, that's Elasticsearch behind the scene. If you go to msn.com, that's Elasticsearch, drive a lot of the content interactions behind the scene. I just don't have time to go over it. Verizon, one of my favorite projects. We worked a lot with them in terms of scale. 500 billion documents We worked with them to get to a point where they were indexing like 700,000 events per second at one point. See still, again, huge amount of network traffic data and security threats, DHL, using Shield, our commercial products, Facebook did it as well, by the way, so they're all customers. Goldman Sachs, again, one of the biggest banks in the world, projects that are very obvious, like online banking search and logging use case and around applications and what have you, and some that you would never think about, fraud detection and trade correlations, all of those wonderful things that you can do with different features of our product, and I can talk about it for ages if you want. Go on the website and you see a lot of those docs. Netflix, again, thousands of nodes of Elasticsearch across hundreds of different projects, very, very exciting. Yelp using Elasticsearch to drive ad traffic, again, they wrote a whole blog post around all of the different use cases of Elasticsearch. It's pretty mind-blowing. Orange using Elasticsearch to search across mainly French content, in this case it's OrangeFR. They moved from Apache Solar. It's not that heavy of a 400 query request per second, but one of the most popular websites in France. So it's quite impressive. So the future, more and more and more of pretty much everything, but we're on it. So that's it. I wanted to leave time for questions. I see that there's a lot of users here of Elasticsearch, and I'd love to answer any type of questions. And I'm on the breath. Yes.
Hey.
Hey. Sorry?
Since I listened yesterday, but still great talk, thank you. And I want to ask, how do you find your co-founder as a CTO, since it's an open source company? How do you find your co-founder?
Co-founder?
Yeah.
How did I find them?
Yeah.
So I'm an Israeli, and I knew Uri for a long time, Uri Bonis, from my Compass days. He was living in Amsterdam at the time, but he would fly to Israel, and they would meet up in a cafe and talk about search and all the things that you can do, and maybe start a company around it, and blah, 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 blah. And he was working in a company with Steven Sherman. So that's how I got to know them, and I knew, and they knew Simon Wilnauer from Germany, so we kind of like knew each other for a long time, but we said, okay, let's start a company around it.
So you start with four in the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
So you start with four people in the beginning?
We were 4 founders, but 6 people in total.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, but we grew very quickly, as I mentioned. Like, it was very easy to find other people and have them join us. It's like, you're just going with friends. You just happen to live in Prague, and Barcelona, and Boston, and yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Great to hear about Elasticsearch. I know about this, but so far I haven't been used. But I see lots of the big company, like even Microsoft using it. So I just want to know that it's likely that this search, Elasticsearch, is probably, I would say, is a leader in terms of open source search engine.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So do you have? I guess you also have a VC and all this invest in the company, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, but then one of the questions, I'm not sure whether it's a fresh to it is because I guess it's Google is not yet your user yet. Google.
No, Google is not our user. They are our partner. So
yeah.
Yeah, they're a partner of ours. Part of all of their. So one of the things that make a cloud solution successful is if the open source projects work well on it.
And so they support your project.
Yes, so we work together with Google to make sure that you can deploy Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana on Google Cloud.
Also, probably you answer my question, because my question is, what happened if Google, they are starting to look into this as a great market for them, so they do their own open source search?
I think it's quite different. Like if you ask me to build a search engine to the scale of what Google needs with a specific mindset of trying to solve web search, I would probably use a different solution. So one of the things that Elasticsearch does is that it's very generic. And And sometimes for a specific search problem, you might need to have a specific solution. The same thing that like these complicated requirements around graph search that Facebook had to use. It would have been difficult to do it with something like Apache with Zine and Elasticsearch. You have to build like a dedicated solution for that. On the other hand, Elasticsearch is extremely generic to solve like, I don't know, 95% of the problem. It doesn't solve 5% of the use cases. I'm not concerned about Google getting into, like, they have a very successful business in trying to, selling ads on the web, and I think that they're really focused on building things like self-driving cars.
But as far as I remember, Google has some appliance, search engine appliance. They target for commercial customer, more or less a similar market like your company.
Yeah, so
I don't know what happened. Probably is it the failure or what.
Google has a product that they try to promote called Google Search Appliance, which is more geared towards the enterprise search use case. The enterprise search use case is the one that I'm trying to get away from for a long time. Because people looked at search within companies and says, enterprise search. How do I connect to SharePoint and index Word documents? While I was trying to let people say, maybe it's a log file, maybe it's a tweet, maybe it's it doesn't matter what type of data you have, you need to search for it. So we do see Google Search Appliance here and there. We definitely see the enterprise search use case here and there. But the beauty of our technology is that it's much more of a platform solution that solves many different use cases.
Thank you.
Because who have a good question, the best question to have yes. So
actually, you know what? I'd love to flip it around. Who has the best use case of Elasticsearch? Tell me about your usage. Who uses that? I saw a lot of hands coming up. Yes, what do you use it for?
Yeah, we are using Elastic to process spam.
Spam?
Yeah.
Can you tell me just the name of the company?
It's Karma.
Yeah?
Yeah, and we are processing about 50 million messages per day for one of the customer.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you use it to identify spam messages or?
Yeah, we have technology to group spams using our backend, but we don't have a good way to represent that to the customer.
Oh, I
So
see.
we use the help stack to do the presentation.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Is that a product that you sell, or is that like a project that you did with a customer?
It's like a PS service.
Okay, cool. And by the way, you're more than welcome to ask a technical question in that context, and I'd love to.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
In terms of Elastic in the future.
Yeah.
When we deploy Elastic, we always have an issue like all these components are separated. They have different installation method and different configuration files. Do you guys have a plan to group all these together?
You mean Elasticsearch Log Session Kibana?
Right.
Yes, we're definitely working on simplifying the whole experience into something that is more holistic. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So first of all, thank you because I use it every day. Yeah,
Sure.
thank you. So it's a bit technical. So you mentioned that Elasticsearch has a strong emphasis on the distributed nature, right? So as we all know, REST is very simple. I can just power up the Elasticsearch and then get my website running to search directly because of the REST API. But then we also know that there are so many overhead across HTTP, like just for example, Elasticsearch use Smile instead of like JSON because to support like binary JSON. I think that's one of the overhead we need to tackle. So after seeing so many use cases, what is Elasticsearch heading to? Like, do you try to use like long enough protocol, long life HTTP connection and these kind of things?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So when we had enough people that were building the different language clients, we hit pause and we said we want to redesign all of our language clients to look almost exactly the same at the low level. Python, Perl, Ruby, .NET. And we went through a lot of tests around performance. Like, should we use HTTP or should we invent our own like long-lived protocol? It's happened to be that if you use HTTP correctly, it's just sockets. Like the overhead of parsing, like headers or something like that, is very small. And when we were running performance tests with good HTTP libraries that implements long connections and things like that, we didn't see a difference in performance. So we decided to say, okay, we'll keep HTTP around. We'll just make sure we implement HTTP well in our client. So if you use one of the official language clients of Elasticsearch, it already does the right thing behind the scenes for you. So HTTP was not a problem. You can do all long connections from the client. You can do fast interactions, all of those things. The other side is the content itself. So first of all, like there isn't a big difference between JSON and Smile. It's like 20% or something like that. Like, JSON is already pretty fast. But we do support, when you want to have like maybe slightly smaller documents, we do support JSON, Smile, and now we support Seaboard. So Seaboard is the new official spec that came out of MessagePack. I don't know if you've heard of MessagePack. So that's like, we support all three. And you can choose which one you want to use. What do you use Elasticsearch for?
Well, I use it for translation memory, if you're aware of the term. So we try to do some recommendation based on string similarity to the translators.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which hashing function do you use to do similarity?
More like this.
Oh, you use more like this, okay. That's awesome. Which company do you work for?
One Sky, a Hong Kong localization started.
Nice.
Good advertisement.
I'm so excited that it's my second time I'm over here. I've been a few times and I'm definitely coming back many more times. It's awesome. And I'm really excited just to hear about users, that use our technology. And I just want to say one of the reasons why Elasticsearch ended up in our company and the project ended up becoming successful is that I view it as a platform to let you tell the story of how you've been successful in our project. So if any of you or any of your friends that use our product want to tell your story, please get in touch with us. We're working very hard to localize our website so you can write like blog posts, guest blog posts, stories. We love it, right? It's all about you and how you innovate on top of our platform, and we'd love to hear your stories. So if you're interested, please, contact@elastic.co, and we'd love to get in touch.
May I ask one more technical question?
Sure.
Yeah. So we all know right now there's a hype in the big Scala anchor model like Spark or things like that.
Yes.
And I think it's quite relevant to the Elasticsearch because Elasticsearch also has a lot of consideration of like running things concurrently, right? If you're like rewriting Elasticsearch this year, or not rewriting, if it starts this year, we'll consider using Akka, like Akka model from Scala.
Yeah, that's a good question. Whether I would use Akka, probably not, to be completely honest. And I'll tell you why. So actually when I started to write Elasticsearch, I looked into Scala, and back then Scala was not as mature as I wanted it to be. But one of the things that I come from, I have a long history in Java, and I know what goes on. When I write Java code, I know the bytecode that is going to come out of it. When I look at Java and IO code around a selector on a socket, I know exactly what happens all the way into how a direct buffer is allocated. And what I found through the years, especially through Compass, is that I want to have as little libraries as possible in the context of Elasticsearch. Because it's so optimized in what it does that any third-party dependencies makes it harder. Now that's in the context of developing this high-end, sophisticated, highly specialized distributed search engine. So I don't know how Akka IO is implemented, and there's a question of whether if I know how I implement stuff. And sometimes we need to have highly specialized stuff, and that's it. We're going to build it. Great example. Elasticsearch has very strong analytics support. So we have, I think, most of the committers today in Apache Machine. People like Robert Muir and Andrew Grant and Mike McCandless and what have you. And we're not afraid to take very complicated projects and try to solve them. So I don't know if you know, but Lucy now has a very, very high performance columnar story called dog values. So this is like something that we didn't use LevelDB, we didn't use something like that. We went and implemented a whole like columnar store solution that is highly specialized and highly integrated in how Lucene works in order to take the aggregation feature of Elasticsearch to the next level. So those are like, it's just low level stuff that you want to stay in control of. On the other hand, if you're building an application, have fun. I think that Akka is a great infrastructure or library to simplify how quickly you want to go and build stuff. I have more reservations around Scala, to be completely honest, on a personal level, but we have many people that love Scala in the team. Like, I'm not, do whatever, it doesn't matter what you use. If you love what you do with the tools that you love, that's the most important thing. It means that you're productive, it means that you enjoy working on them, and you have fun.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
Question there?
I think there's a weird concurrency stuff going on between the lines.
Hello. So thanks for sharing. I actually have two questions, but since you mentioned we should share some showcase, so actually you guys helped us for the democratic movement in Hong Kong. So actually last year I oversee the back-end software development for the top world civil referendum about the so like 600,000 people, Hong Kong people actually voted for different political reform proposal. And behind the system, actually we use Logstash to handle everything. For example, how much time people take, how long time people take it to vote on the apps, how many messages we are receiving per seconds, etc. So that our system operator can get real-time information about what's happening. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I actually have two questions for you. Like, I actually want to know, like, is that consulting is the major revenue source for your company, and like, is that you are like having like something between like 80% of the revenue from 20% of clients? That means you have a lot of big clients, or are you having a lot of small clients asking for service?
Yeah.
Second questions.
I'll answer this one.
Okay.
Just so I won't forget. So yeah, when we started the company, we definitely didn't want to have our revenue coming from consulting. And the reason is that I don't want to have Simon Wilnauer focusing on going and building applications for clients. He'll do an awesome job, right? But like when we started the company, Simon was busy doing consulting to SoundCloud and Nokia. And I was like, I can't deal with this, man. I need him back to help me, fix stuff in Lucene and Elasticsearch. Like it's a waste of time, right, of Simon. So when we started our company, we focused on what we call like production subscription. So we will go and help you, but remotely. It doesn't mean that you can't ask questions or we'll go and help you, but it's not like I'm gonna sit in SoundCloud for 2 months and work on their application, right? It's more around how you use our application. As we grew as a company, we now have commercial products that helps us alleviate that, right? It's like someone comes in and says, I want to have security for Elasticsearch. Then, we'll sell them. You get that as a whole package. I think it's important that we also sell it as a package. You get security, alerting, monitoring and management, and production and development support. So you get all of that together. Now, whether most of our income comes from like 20% of the customers, I don't know. It's actually pretty balanced, and I'm very happy about it. It really depends also when do we catch a company in their adoption cycle, right? So it's like if we were like 2 years before and talked to Goldman Sachs, there was just one project that used us, right, for logging. Like this crazy dude downloaded in Goldman Sachs, downloaded Elasticsearch, managed to solve the logging problem within half a day, and everybody were giving him high fives or whatever. Oh, this is awesome! Now we can see what's going on with our system with Kibana and what have you. Then slowly the projects mature and it's only these fingers here and there and what have you. It's like goes like a brush fire, like the brush fire usage of open source. So it really depends when we catch a company. It might be like a really large company that only uses us at the beginning for a small project, but I can see where it's going based on historical evidence. Or whether it's a small company, but it's so instrumental to what they do that they're running it on 150 machines or 200 machines, so it's slightly more expensive. So I think it's very balanced.
Thanks for that. And second question I have is actually pretty broad. Like, I just want to know, what's your opinion on generally what do you think are major differences between running a proprietary software company versus a open source software company? So something like, is it particularly difficult for you to manage the community or something like that?
Yeah. So I think first of all, there's. Should I focus on the bad things about running the difficult things, difficult things around running an open source company, or the good things around that? Which one?
Both.
Both.
But I think the difficult part would be more interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, it's more interesting. So the difficult part, there's a few of them. First of all, I think because we're open source, we became a distributed company, and it's not easy to run a distributed company. It has tons of nice stuff, right? You can hire people from wherever they are. Someone wakes up in Minnesota and decides to contribute to our code base, and I see the wonderful contribution, and I call them up and I say, hey fellas, do you want to join our company because you're awesome? And they'll say, okay. So that's great. But on the other hand, you have 250 employees across 20, 25 countries. It's not easy. How do you talk? Time zones. Suddenly I'm talking to someone at 1 o'clock in the morning. Where's my sleep and what have you? So that's, I think, a challenge. You'll see that a lot of open source companies end up being distributed. Great book about it, if you're interested, from Scott Barkun, called Working Without Pants. It's pretty awesome. And obviously Remote by Gia Jage, from the Ruby on Rails creator. So I learned a lot reading those books. So that's one aspect. The other one is, sometimes you meet someone and they, smile very broadly and say, you're giving us software for free, like, are you an idiot? And I definitely don't look at it like that. Obviously, the difference between an open source company and a commercial company is that you don't monetize 100% of your user base, right? But the way that I view it, and this is like an economic model that is very popular in other areas, right? Like, you don't have to pay for Facebook, you don't have to pay for Line, you don't have to pay for other services, right? You want to have the biggest adoption that you can get, and then try to find a way that you can monetize those aspects, certain aspects, and not all the users. You have to accept the fact. The difficult part is, by the way, that you need to accept the fact that you will not monetize all the users. Like, when I think about open source, I think about a two-person startup here sitting somewhere today, now, at this moment, sitting in Hong Kong, building something that is amazing, and they're using our software. I don't want them to pay us. I want to invest all the effort that we have, 130 developers, almost all of them working on open source today, to make sure that they'll be successful. When they'll be successful, we'll talk.
How much time can we continue?
Yeah.
How much time we have?
And on schedule is
Now? We can continue? Okay.
Any more questions? Please. More use cases of our software. So far, I have a winner. We got
You got this unique book signed by Shai, right? So very unique.
I just want to follow up question about the open source issue. Since some of the very successful open source in the past, they have a so-called branch out, and then sometimes among the developer, the contributor, they have different opinion. They go for different route. One of the case probably you already know. There's the June before they go module, something like that. And then they branch out. Joomla, CMS, the content management software. Joomla. Before that, they have another module, something like that. But they branch out a different idea on their open source route. So how about, I think so far you're only one, you control the main branch. So do you feel a pressure or how do you think about this issue?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, like whether someone is going to fork the project, I think you can always like the license is very permissive. It's attached to license. I think there's a different question about if someone forks the project, whether they'll be able to innovate to the level that the original project innovates. I think the reasons why a project ends up being forked are typically two reasons. First of all, is that there's the project just slows down. It's like becomes slow and hard to move. A lot of politics. There's a lot of politics in open source, as there's a lot of politics in anything else when you have humans involved. But there's a lot of politics in open source, right? And those slow things down. I'm more of a fan of the open source model that it's called benevolent dictator, right? So it's like regardless of what happens, there's someone that makes a decision and moves the project forward. And most of the time, by the way, it doesn't have to be like it's not very obvious what's right and wrong decision, as it is in life, right? As long as you make the decision. It applies to when you run a company, it applies to many other stuff, right? Just make a decision and move on forward. So this is what happens now. I used to be the benevolent dictator of Elasticsearch. Today Simon Wilmauer. Rashid Khan is the benevolent dictator, right, of Kibana. So, if I still contribute code to Elasticsearch, right? And I go and send a pull request and someone says, oh man, that sucks, I will never get it into Elasticsearch. And I go, okay man, thank you. First of all, thank you for saying my code sucks. But here, let's have a discussion about it and see how it goes. And he'll come back and say, man, this is now not where I see the project moving forward. I think that it's going to move forward in another direction. And I'll say, I disagree. I think that it should move forward in that direction. And he'll go back and say, no, this is what I believe in. Here's the reasoning. Here's where we're going. This is where it's going to go. And I'll go, okay, Simon, no problem. I'll change my pull request to do it the way that you do, because you are the leader of this project. And I much value moving forward than just having this bitter, long-winded discussion around things that at the end of the day, they're not that meaningful. So I think that that's one of the ways that I hope that our project ends up working with it. The other one, and it just goes back to how the conversation that I just described goes. If you have those conversations, there's much less chance that someone will say, I don't like you, I want to form. Right? If you're having those type of discussions, it means that we will have a very mature and a strong community around our products.
So you define two people?
Two? We have two.
Two books.
Two books. So over there and over there. Over there. The stem one was awesome. Yes, please.
Commonly introduces Frank and his Elasticsearch experiment.